I knew supporting individuals' mental health would be a piece of my work at Urban Peak this year, but not until I was in the depths of routine did I fully understand. When one of my coworkers said, "Every youth who walks into our door has experienced trauma, homelessness being a traumatic experience itself. To not have the privilege of friends and family there to support your living situation, and maybe even having to cut them off from your life for your own safety, is more than life-altering." One day, during a case management meeting, I started a conversation about mental health with Philip. Philip is a very knowledgeable guy who has been struggling with depression from past traumatic experiences. "What do you think of when you hear the word mental health?" I asked him. "Medication," he replied. "What else?" I asked. "That's about it," he replied. Meanwhile, I explained that medication can be related to mental health, but also there was much more, highlighting the importance of finding coping skills for stress and activities that help keep life fulfilling. One coping skill Philip identified to help with when stressed was having the ability to go to a quiet room to get some time alone. It's hard living in a shelter where there's always so much going on. All these kids are dealing with a lot. I agreed. The statement lingered with me the rest of my day, and as I sat processing the day, as I do on my bus rides home, I started remembering the leading question to the undergraduate university students during a project my last year of college: "What is mental wellness to you?" The main motivation for this was changing the way we talk about mental health. Professionals are saying that we should not be defining someone by mental health or thinking of it as only related to illness, but with a prevention mindset. It is important to know how we cope best with stress before trauma, brain chemistry, or difficult circumstances impact us. It occurred to me that one of the participants in my project said having time in their room was the way they coped with stress from the day, probably a reflection of many middle-class Americans' experience. I started to think about what was crucial for my own mental health. Something that really surprised me about CVV when I got here was that we all had our own bedrooms. I did not expect this at the beginning of the year, but I have been so grateful to have it. If I didn't have a quiet room to go back to and lived in a shelter with so many different personalities and responses to severe trauma, I know maintaining mental health would be nearly impossible for me. I have the luxury, even in community, to go relax in my room. And then there is Philip, who might get to sit in this shelter alternative room for a little bit. That's it. Although he has the same desire for privacy as the project participant and I do, he doesn't get it and is forced to think about other alternatives. Thankfully, a new shelter will be built within the next 5 years and plans to have private rooms for clients and staff alike to be able to go to during the day for peace and quiet. However, for the time being, these resilient clients walk in and out of our doors and continue to search for ways to cope with trauma and adverse experiences life throws at them in an environment that is less than ideal. Thank you, Philip, for reminding me of what helps me cope with life stressors, but also how I should continue to identify ways to achieve that peace more simply, so that others may someday also have a quiet room to clear their mind.